The video opens on a beach at sunset. A woman in white walks barefoot through the sand toward a flower-covered arch. I know that walk. The slight sway of her hips, the way she tilts her head like she's listening to music no one else can hear. I've watched my wife walk toward me 1,000 times. But this isn't our wedding. This is someone else's. And somehow, impossibly, the bride is still Natalie. It started because I wanted to do something romantic. That's the part that kills me when I think about it now. I was trying to be a good husband. Friday night, home alone again. Natalie was at another conference in Seattle, her 4th trip this year, and I was rattling around our empty house like a ghost. 7 years married, 9 years together, and lately it felt like we were roommates who occasionally shared a bed. I told myself it was her job. Regional manager for a pharmaceutical company meant travel, meant long hours, meant she came home exhausted and distant. I told myself a lot of things. Our anniversary was coming up next month. 7 years. I'd been feeling nostalgic, flipping through old photos on my phone, remembering when we couldn't keep our hands off each other, when she used to leave little notes in my lunch, when we'd stay up until 3 in the morning just talking about nothing and everything. I decided I'd surprise her with a video montage. Our whole relationship set to that song she loved, the one from our first dance. I needed old photos. Old videos. Anything I could find from before we got married. That's what led me to the closet in our home office, digging through boxes of old cables and forgotten electronics. And that's where I found it. An external hard drive, the kind you don't see anymore, labeled in Natalie's neat handwriting. Backup, do not delete. I figured it was exactly what I needed. Old photos, maybe some videos from college, stuff she'd archived and forgotten about. I plugged it into my laptop and waited for it to mount. The folders were organized by year. Natalie was always organized. It was one of the things I'd loved about her, how she brought order to my chaos. I scrolled through, looking for anything from before we met, but a folder near the bottom caught my eye. TB, Special Day. I didn't recognize the initials. I clicked it open. One video file. Our Day, Final MP4. I figured it was a friend's wedding, maybe something she'd edited as a gift. Natalie was good with video software. I hit play. The footage was beautiful, professional quality, the kind you pay serious money for. A beach at sunset, somewhere tropical. Palm trees swaying. An arch covered in white flowers and gauzy fabric. Guests seated in white chairs on the sand. And then the bride appeared. I recognized her before the camera even found her face. I knew the way she moved, the way she held her shoulders, the way her fingers brushed against her thigh when she was nervous. I'd memorized every inch of that woman over 9 years. The camera panned up, and there she was. My wife. In a wedding dress I'd never seen. Walking toward a man I'd never met. I watched them exchange vows. I watched him lift her veil. I watched them kiss while the small crowd applauded. I watched the officiant, some guy in a linen shirt with a tan that suggested he did this for a living, pronounce them husband and wife. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely work the trackpad. I paused the video and checked the file metadata. Date created, August 18th. 2 years ago. 2 years ago, Natalie and I had already been married for 5 years. I scrubbed through the rest of the video. There was a reception on the beach, tiki torches, a live band, maybe 40 guests. I didn't recognize a single face. The groom was tall, dark-haired, confident-looking. Early 40s, maybe. He smiled at her like she was the only person in the world. I screenshot his face. Then I sat in the dark office. The video paused on my wife kissing another man, and I felt something I didn't expect. Not sadness, not confusion. Cold, calculating fury. I could have called her right then. Could have demanded answers, screamed at her over the phone, played the wronged husband. That's what most people would do. But I'm not most people. I'm a structural engineer. I solve problems systematically. I identify load-bearing failures and calculate exactly how much stress a system can take before it collapses. I wasn't going to tear down this building until I understood exactly how it was constructed. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I went through every folder on that hard drive like I was conducting a forensic investigation. And what I found made the video look like a minor indiscretion. Photos from the wedding. I was able to identify the location from the resort branding in the background. Turks and Caicos. Photos of Natalie with the mystery man spanning over a year before the ceremony. Dinners, vacations, intimate moments captured in low light. Screenshots of text conversations that made my stomach turn. Not because they were explicit, but because they were loving. Planning a future. Discussing children's names. Picking out furniture for our place. I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you, one message read. She'd sent it 3 days after our 5th wedding anniversary. Then I found the document that changed everything. A scanned marriage certificate. Legally filed. Natalie Parker married Tyler Brennan on August 18th in Turks and Caicos. This wasn't an affair. This was bigamy. A felony in every state in the Union. I sat back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. 9 years together. 7 years married. And I was just one of her husbands. I spent the next few hours being methodical. I copied everything to my own secure cloud storage. I photographed files with timestamps. I created a documentation trail that would hold up in any court. By the time the sun came up Saturday morning, I had enough evidence to destroy her. But I still needed to understand who Tyler Brennan was, and whether he was a victim or a co-conspirator. Google gave me the basics. Tyler Brennan, 41 years old, owner of Brennan Architecture and Design, a mid-sized firm in Portland, Oregon. 3 hours from Seattle, right in the middle of what Natalie called her regional territory. The firm's website showed a confident man in an expensive suit, the kind of guy who probably drove a German car and had opinions about wine. The About section mentioned his education at Cornell, his design philosophy centered on sustainable materials, his awards from various industry organizations. No mention of a wife. His personal social media was sparse. LinkedIn showed professional connections, Instagram was private, Facebook seemed abandoned since 2019. No photos of Natalie anywhere public. But no photos of any other woman either. If he was married to my wife, he was keeping it quiet. That's when I remembered something. 2 years ago, right around the time of that August wedding, Natalie's sister Harper had been at a destination wedding. I remember because Natalie had seemed tense about it. Something about family drama. About Harper's boyfriend not being invited. Harper was the younger sister, 32 now. Always a bit of a mess, according to Natalie. They weren't close, or so she'd always told me. I went back to the wedding video and watched more carefully this time. There she was. Harper. Standing right next to Natalie at the altar. Holding her bouquet during the vows. Giving a toast at the reception about how Nat has finally found her person. She was the maid of honor. Harper knew. Harper participated. Harper watched her sister commit a felony and smiled for the camera. I spent Sunday reconstructing Natalie's schedule for the past 2 years. I pulled up our shared calendar, cross-referenced it with credit card statements, checked email confirmations she'd forwarded me. Her business trips averaged 8 to 10 days per month. Her territory covered the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, Northern California. Portland was right in the middle. She'd been living 2 lives, splitting her time between 2 husbands, and neither of us had any idea. At least I assumed Tyler didn't know. But I needed to be sure before I decided how to handle this. Monday morning, I called in sick to work. First time in 3 years. My boss sounded confused. "Chase, you never take sick days." But I assured him it was just a stomach thing, nothing serious. Then I got in my car and drove to Portland. The drive gave me time to think. 3 hours of highway and rain-slicked roads, asking myself questions I couldn't answer. When had it started? Had she planned this from the beginning, or had it evolved over time? Did she love him? Did she love me? Had she ever loved anyone but herself? Brennan Architecture occupied the top floor of a renovated warehouse in the Pearl District. Exposed brick, enormous windows, the kind of space that screamed creative professional with money. I parked across the street and watched. Around 9, a silver Mercedes pulled into the lot. Tyler Brennan stepped out, coffee in hand, and walked into the building like a man without a care in the world. He was taller than I expected, maybe 6'2", with the easy posture of someone who'd never had to question his place in the world. No wedding ring. Interesting. I sat there for an hour, watching the building, thinking about my next move. If Tyler was complicit, if he knew about me and didn't care, then I was dealing with something more complicated than simple infidelity. But if he was a victim too, he might be an ally. I walked in through the front door. The reception area was all minimalist design, white walls covered with architectural renderings. A pretty young woman at the desk who looked up with a practiced smile. "Good morning. Welcome to Brennan Architecture. How can I help you?" "Hi. I'm thinking about a home renovation project, and a colleague recommended your firm. Is there someone I could speak with about a consultation?" "Of course. Let me see who's available." She clicked through something on her computer. "Actually, Mr. Brennan handles most of our residential clients personally. Let me see if he can fit you in." 10 minutes later, I was shaking hands with the man who'd married my wife. "Tyler Brennan, pleasure to meet you." "Chase Mitchell, thanks for seeing me on short notice." He had a good handshake, firm but not aggressive, the kind they probably teach in business school. Up close, I could see why Natalie might be attracted to him. Strong jaw, intelligent eyes, the kind of easy confidence that comes from success and good genetics. He led me to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Coffee? Water?" "Water would be great." He poured 2 glasses from a pitcher on the sideboard and sat across from me. "So, Chase, tell me what you're thinking." I fed him a story about converting our garage into a home office. The pandemic had changed how we worked, I explained, and I needed dedicated space away from the distractions of the main house. He listened attentively, asked smart questions about dimensions and natural light, sketched rough ideas on a yellow legal pad. The whole time, I watched him carefully for any sign of recognition, any hint that he knew who I was. A flicker of the eyes when I said my name, a tension in his posture. Anything. Nothing. He was either an incredible actor or completely in the dark. "I travel a lot for site visits," he mentioned at one point, "so my schedule's pretty flexible. I'm not in Portland as much as I'd like, but that means I can usually accommodate clients' timing." "That must be hard on your family life," I said carefully. He smiled. "My wife's understanding. She travels for work too, so we make it work. We've gotten good at maximizing the time we do have together." There it was. He thought he was married. To Natalie. What does she do? Pharmaceutical sales. Regional manager. She's based out of Seattle, but she's on the road constantly. We probably see each other 8 or 10 days a month, but we've got our routines. I kept my expression neutral. That's a tough industry. She's good at it. Very driven, very organized. He laughed softly. She handles most of our household stuff. Bills, paperwork, that kind of thing. I'm more of a big picture guy. I filed that away. She handled the paperwork. Of course she did. "Listen," Tyler said, glancing at his watch. "I've got another meeting in 15, but why don't we schedule a site visit? I can come up to Seattle, take some measurements, give you a real proposal." "That sounds great. I'll have to coordinate with my wife on timing." "Perfect. Here's my card. Just email me some dates that work and we'll make it happen." We shook hands again. I walked out of that building with one certainty. Tyler Brennan had no idea his marriage was a sham. Now I had to decide what to do with that information. That night, I hired a private investigator. Frank Sullivan, former Seattle PD, came highly recommended by a lawyer I knew from a construction dispute years back. We met at a diner far from anywhere Natalie might run into us, a greasy spoon in Tacoma that seemed to cater exclusively to truckers and people who didn't want to be found. Frank was in his 60s, gray hair cropped short, the kind of weathered face that suggested he'd seen everything and was no longer surprised by any of it. He wore a jacket that might have been stylish in 1995 and had the easy patience of someone who spent most of his time waiting. "So," he said, after we'd ordered coffee, "tell me what you need." I gave him the basics. Suspected infidelity, possible financial deception, needed everything documented. "The more you tell me, the faster I can work," he said. "I don't want to prejudice your investigation. I want to see what you find independently." He raised an eyebrow at that, but didn't push. "Your money. I charge $200 an hour plus expenses, minimum 20 hours up front. That work for you?" "That works." "Then I'll have something preliminary by end of week." Frank worked fast. By Wednesday evening, he was back at the same diner with a folder thick enough to make my heart sink. "Your wife has a separate bank account you didn't know about," he said, sliding papers across the table. "Opened 18 months ago at a credit union in Portland. Regular deposits, mid-four figures, transferred from an account belonging to one Tyler Brennan." I kept my face impassive. "What else?" "She owns property. A condo in Portland, purchased about 18 months ago. Listed in her maiden name, Natalie Parker. The mortgage has a co-signer." He paused. "Tyler Brennan." I'd suspected as much, but seeing it in black and white still felt like a punch to the gut. She had an entire second home, an entire second life. "The condo's in a nice building," Frank continued. 2 bedrooms, waterfront views. Estimated value around $800,000. She put down about 20%, so she's got significant equity. "Where did she get the down payment?" "That's where it gets interesting. She pulled money from an individual brokerage account, one you're apparently not on, that she's been feeding for years. Small amounts, nothing that would show up on your joint statements, but it adds up. She'd been planning this for years, siphoning money, building towards something." "There's one more thing," Frank said. "This might be nothing, but I came across a death certificate filing while I was digging. Recent. Someone connected to Brennan. Want me to look deeper?" "Yes, find out everything." Natalie came home Saturday afternoon, radiant and affectionate after her conference. She walked through the door in that way she had, like she was making an entrance, and wrapped her arms around me in the kitchen. "I missed you," she said, kissing my cheek. "The conference was brutal. Back-to-back panels, networking dinners every night. I'm exhausted." "I'm sure. You want me to order Thai?" "God, yes. Extra spicy." I ordered her usual while she unpacked, listening to her chatter about boring presentations and corporate politics. She had stories, detailed stories, the kind with names and places and specific complaints about the hotel Wi-Fi. Either she'd prepared them in advance or she'd actually attended some conference somewhere, maybe both. "I brought you something," she said, pressing a small bag into my hands. A coffee mug. Pike Place Market logo on the side. "I know it's touristy," she laughed, "but I walked by and thought of you. You're always complaining about not having enough mugs." I turned it over in my hands. It was heavy, well-made. She'd probably ordered it online. "It's perfect," I said. "Thank you." We ate dinner together at the kitchen island, her legs tucked beneath her on the bar stool, telling me about Harper wanting to visit next month. Something about a job change, maybe a new boyfriend. "That would be great," I said. "I'd love to see her. It's been what, a year?" "About that. You know how she is. Always in her own little world. Runs in the family." She threw a napkin at me, laughing. Rude. Later, lying next to her in the dark, I listened to her breathing slow into sleep and thought about how well I'd married a stranger. Every word she'd spoken tonight had been calibrated, every gesture practiced. She'd come home to her husband and lied to his face without breaking a sweat. I wondered if she'd always been like this, if the woman I'd fallen in love with had ever existed at all. Frank called me Monday morning with the death certificate details. Linda Brennan, he said, Tyler's mother, died 6 weeks ago. Natural causes, heart failure, 78 years old. Why does that matter? Because Linda Brennan had money, lots of it. Her husband made a fortune in real estate back in the 80s, died about 10 years ago, left everything to her. Tyler was her only child. He inherited everything. How much? Approximately $4.2 million in assets, mixture of real estate, investments, and cash. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. Here's where it gets interesting, Frank continued. Washington state is a community property state. As Tyler's wife, Natalie would have legal claim to half of any assets acquired during their marriage, including inherited assets under certain circumstances. The laws are complex, but a good lawyer could make arguments. It finally made sense. All of it. Natalie hadn't just wanted 2 husbands. She'd been positioning herself for years. A backup marriage, a wealthier husband, an inheritance. There's more, Frank said. I found a life insurance policy, $2 million on Tyler Brennan's life. The application was submitted 18 months ago through a broker named Owen Hartwell. The beneficiary is listed as Natalie Brennan. Did Tyler know about this? Hard to say. The signature on the application looks legitimate, but the policy amount is unusual for someone Tyler's age with no kids. And if your wife handled the paperwork, she could have told him it was standard, a reasonable amount. Could have buried the details in a stack of documents he trusted her to manage. $2 million, a convenient accident, a grieving widow. I'd known Natalie was a liar. I was only now realizing she might be something much worse. I met with a lawyer that Friday. Victoria Hayes came recommended as someone who handled both family law and criminal matters, which seemed appropriate given the circumstances. Her office was downtown, all glass and chrome, the kind of place that charged $500 an hour and was worth every penny. She was about 50, sharp-eyed, with the demeanor of someone who'd seen the worst of human nature and learned to find it professionally interesting. Mr. Mitchell, she said, shaking my hand. Have a seat. Tell me what brings you in. I laid out everything. The video, the marriage certificate, the separate accounts, the Portland condo, the insurance policy. She listened without interrupting, making notes on a legal pad. When I finished, she set down her pen. Well, she said, that's quite a situation. What are my options? Bigamy is a Class C felony in Washington. Up to 5 years in prison, $10,000 in fines. Your marriage to Natalie is the legal one. It has priority because it came first. Her marriage to Tyler Brennan is void from the start. It never legally existed. What about the money, the insurance? The insurance policy is trickier. If she misrepresented herself on the application, which she did since she listed herself as unmarried, that's fraud. If she had any role in expediting the approval through this Owen Hartwell person, there could be conspiracy charges. The insurance company will definitely want to know about this. Can I divorce her? Absolutely. Given the circumstances, we can push for emergency asset protection to freeze everything while we sort out what's hers and what isn't. The court will not look kindly on her behavior. Judges have seen a lot of bad divorces, but bigamy tends to stand out. What about Tyler? Does he have any claim? His marriage is void, so technically he was never her husband. But he may have civil claims against her for fraud, especially regarding the insurance policy and any money he contributed to joint assets under false pretenses. He could potentially recover what he put into that condo. Should I warn him? Victoria considered this, tapping her pen against the desk. There are strategic advantages either way. If you coordinate with him, you present a unified front. Two victims instead of one. Prosecutors like that, it shows pattern of behavior. If you don't coordinate, you maintain more control over timing and narrative. She paused. It depends on what you want out of this. I thought about Tyler in that conference room, sketching renovation ideas for my fictional project, talking about his understanding wife. I want her to lose everything, I said. Both of us deserve the truth. I drove back to Portland Monday afternoon. Tyler agreed to meet me at a coffee shop, thinking we were going to discuss my renovation project further. I arrived early and chose a table in the back, away from other customers. He showed up right on time, carrying a rolled-up set of preliminary drawings and a tablet tucked under his arm. Chase, good to see you. I've got some ideas I think you're going to love. We talked about your light concerns, and I found a skylight option that could really transform the space. I'm not here about the renovation, I said. Something in my voice stopped him. He set down the drawing slowly. Okay, what's this about? It's about Natalie Parker. His expression shifted. How do you know my wife's maiden name? Because she's not your wife. She's mine, and has been for 7 years. Tyler stared at me like I'd grown a second head. That's not possible. We got married 2 years ago. I was at the wedding. So was I. A different wedding. 7 years ago. This is insane. Is this some kind of scam? Are you trying to extort money? I have documentation. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder of evidence I'd prepared. This is our marriage certificate, dated 5 years before yours. These are photos from our wedding. This is her social security card with my address on file. This is our joint tax return from last year. He took the phone with hands that had started to tremble. He scrolled through the images, his face growing paler with each swipe. This could be faked, he said, but his voice had no conviction. It could be, but it's not. And somewhere in your gut, you know I'm telling the truth. Think about it. All those business trips, the way she guards her phone, the questions she never quite answers. Tyler set down my phone like it had burned him. He pushed back from the table, stood up, paced a few steps, came back. His jaw was working like he was chewing on words he couldn't quite form. 3 years, he finally said. I've known her for 3 years. We got married 2 years ago. We have a life together. You have part of a life. 8 to 10 days a month, right? The rest of the time, she's with me, in Seattle, living in our house. She said, he stopped, swallowed hard. She said she was single when we met. Divorced from someone years ago, bad marriage, didn't like to talk about it. No family except her sister. Her sister was your maid of honor. Harper knew everything. She's been receiving $2,000 a month from Natalie to keep quiet. Tyler sat back down heavily. How do you know that? I hired a private investigator. He's found bank accounts, property records, everything. This can't be happening. I gave him a moment. I remembered what it felt like, that first shock. The way reality reshapes itself around you. I'm sorry, I said. I really am. I know this is a lot. Why are you telling me this? He looked up, eyes red. Why not just, I don't know, report her to the police? Divorce her? Why come to me? Because you're a victim too, and because you have information I need. What information? Did you know about the life insurance policy? The $2 million one with Natalie as beneficiary? His face went gray. She handled the paperwork. She said it was standard, that financial advisors always recommend coverage when you get married. She said it was a small policy, couple $100,000. It's $2 million. That's not, she said. He couldn't finish. My investigator found it. The application was processed through a broker named Owen Hartwell. Ring any bells? Tyler shook his head slowly. I don't know that name. He's her ex-boyfriend from college. They've been in contact recently. Tyler put his head in his hands. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The coffee shop buzzed around us, oblivious to the world falling apart at our table. My mother died 6 weeks ago, Tyler finally said. I know, I'm sorry. She left me a substantial inheritance. Over $4 million. He looked up. Natalie was so supportive. Kept telling me to take time off, not to push myself. She said I'd been working too hard, that I needed to take care of myself. Did she suggest anything specific? She bought me a motorcycle last month. Said I deserved something fun after everything I'd been through. A Ducati. Top of the line. I let that hang in the air between us. You don't think... He couldn't finish the sentence. I don't know what she was planning, but I know what she was positioned for. A wealthy widow with $2 million in insurance money and a claim on your mother's estate. Tyler's hands were shaking. I need a drink, something stronger than coffee. There's a bar around the corner. We can talk there. Over whiskey, Tyler told me his side of the story. They'd met at a design conference in San Francisco 3 years ago. She was there representing her pharmaceutical company. He was there for an architecture panel. They'd ended up at the same networking event, talking until the bar closed. She was so easy to be around, he said. Funny, smart, interested in my work. She asked real questions, not just polite small talk. I felt like I'd known her my whole life. I know the feeling, I said. That's how it was when we met too. They dated long distance for a year. She said she was based in Seattle but traveled constantly. He proposed on the anniversary of their first date, on the same San Francisco rooftop where they'd met. She cried, Tyler said. Real tears. Or what I thought were real tears. She said she'd never been so happy. The wedding was small, just close friends, no family except Harper. Natalie had explained that her parents died when she was young, that she and Harper were all each other had. That's true, actually, I said. The parents' part. They died in a car accident when she was in college. It's one of the few things she didn't lie about. Great. Something. After the wedding, they'd settled into a routine. She visited Portland 8 to 10 days a month, sometimes more. They bought the condo together, decorated it together, built what he thought was a life. She pushed recently to combine our finances, Tyler said, especially since my mom died. Said it made sense to consolidate, to think about our future together. She had spreadsheets, investment projections, the whole thing. Did you do it? Not yet. I was planning to meet with my financial advisor next month. He laughed bitterly. I guess I owe him a thank you. What do you want to do now? Tyler stared into his whiskey for a long moment. I want to watch her burn. Is that wrong? No, it's not wrong. Then let's figure out how to make that happen. Over the next few days, Tyler and I coordinated strategy. He flew to Seattle to meet with Victoria Hayes, who agreed to represent both of us. The case was unusual, she admitted, but not unprecedented. Bigamy cases aren't common, she said, but they do happen. The fact that you've both documented everything extensively works in your favor. The question is whether you want to prioritize criminal charges, civil recovery, or both. Both, Tyler and I said simultaneously. Then we'll need to be strategic about timing. Criminal charges first. They strengthen your position in the civil suits. But before we file anything, we want to make sure we've captured everything she might try to hide. That meant more investigation. Frank dug deeper into the insurance policy, tracing the paperwork back to Owen Hartwell's personal handling. We found communications between them. Nothing explicitly romantic, but enough to suggest a relationship that went beyond old friends reconnecting. She played him, Frank concluded, reached out after years of silence, flattered him, asked for a favor. He probably thought he was earning points towards something more. Was he? Hard to say. but she used him either way. We also investigated Harper more thoroughly. Her finances showed a lifestyle that didn't match her salary. Expensive apartment, designer clothes, frequent vacations. The $2,000 a month from Natalie explained the gap. She's complicit, Victoria said. Conspiracy to commit fraud, at minimum. If she cooperates, we can probably get her a deal. If she doesn't, she goes down with her sister. The final piece was the trap. Natalie was scheduled to visit Tyler in Portland that weekend. She didn't know we'd been talking. She didn't know anything had changed. We record the conversation, Tyler said. Get her on tape admitting to the bigamy. Oregon and Washington are both one-party consent states, Victoria confirmed. As long as one of you knows about the recording, it's legal. And then we confront her. Show her exactly how exposed she is, and then we let the system do its work. Saturday morning, I drove to Portland and slipped into Tyler's condo through the back entrance. He'd set up cameras in the living room and kitchen, hidden but comprehensive. I waited in the guest bedroom, listening through the door. Natalie arrived around noon. I heard her voice, that familiar warm tone, the one she used when she was happy. I missed you so much, she said. Missed you too. How was the drive? Long, but being here makes it worth it. I brought you something. A pause. A watch? Nat, this is too much. Nothing's too much for you. After everything you've been through with your mom, you deserve nice things. They moved into the kitchen. I heard Tyler offer her wine, heard the clink of glasses. I've been thinking, Tyler said, his voice remarkably steady. Now that my mother's estate is settled, maybe we should finally talk about our finances. Get everything organized. What do you mean? Joint accounts, investment planning. You've been saying for months we should consolidate. Maybe it's time. I could hear the interest sharpen in her voice. I've actually been researching that. There's a financial advisor in the city who specializes in inheritance management. I have a whole proposal put together. Yeah? Walk me through it. She launched into details, strategies for protecting wealth, maximizing returns, setting up trusts. Tyler asked careful questions, drawing her out, getting her on record talking about money she had no legitimate claim to. Then he shifted gears. You know, you never talk about your past. I realized the other day I don't know much about your life before we met. There's not much to tell. You know the important stuff. Any exes I should worry about? She laughed. Nobody important. I was basically single before you came along. Ever been married before? God, no. You're my first and only husband. I heard Tyler set down his wine glass. I'm glad you said that. Because there's someone I want you to meet. What do you mean? Who? Come into the living room. I took that as my cue. I opened the bedroom door and walked out to where they stood near the kitchen island. Natalie's back was to me. She turned at the sound of my footsteps. The sequence of expressions that crossed her face was almost beautiful in its horror. Confusion first. What was I doing here? Then recognition that something was deeply wrong. Then terror, brief and raw. And finally, so quick I might have imagined it, a flash of cold calculation. Chase? Her voice cracked on my name. What are you doing here? Hello, Natalie. Or should I say Mrs. Brennan? Tyler moved to stand beside me. Or Mrs. Mitchell, whichever you prefer. She looked between us, her mind visibly racing. I don't know what he told you, Tyler, but he showed me your marriage certificate, the one from 7 years ago, the one that predates ours by 5 years. It must be fake. Someone's trying to. I also have our wedding photos, I said. Our joint tax returns, bank statements, 9 years of documentation proving we're married. You don't understand. She was backing away now, hands raised like she could ward us off. Then explain it to me. Explain how you married Tyler 2 years ago when you were already married to me. Explain the condo you bought together, the separate bank accounts, The $2 million insurance policy. Her face crumpled. Actual tears started rolling down her cheeks. I can explain. It's complicated. You don't know what I was going through. You have one chance, Tyler said. One chance to tell us the truth. All of it. She sobbed for several minutes. We waited. Eventually, the tears slowed, and something harder emerged beneath them. You both gave me different things, she finally said. Her voice was flat now, stripped of performance. Chase was stable, safe, but he was never going to be more than what he was. Middle management engineering job, same salary year after year. Tyler had ambition, resources, a future. So you decided to have both, I said. I didn't want to choose. I thought I could make it work. For how long? Were you going to keep this up forever? I don't know. I didn't think that far ahead. Tyler stepped forward. What about the insurance policy? The $2 million? Her expression flickered, something calculating behind the tears. That was just in case something happened. Standard planning. Any financial advisor would tell you, cut the crap, Natalie. Owen Hartwell processed that application. Your college ex-boyfriend. The one you've been texting for the past 2 years. For the first time, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. How do you know about Owen? We know about everything. The payments to Harper, the separate bank accounts, all of it. She was silent for a long moment. Then, quietly, what do you want? Is this about money? Because we can figure something out. This is about the fact that you committed a felony, Tyler cut in. Bigamy, fraud, God knows what else. You're going to ruin me. No, I said. You did that yourself. We're just making sure everyone knows. There was a long silence. Natalie looked between us, searching for some opening, some angle she could exploit. I'd seen that look before. I just hadn't recognized it for what it was. The recordings, she said quietly. You have recordings. Of course we do. Everything you just said about the insurance policy, the financial planning, your denial of being married before, all of it. That won't hold up in court. I'll say I was coerced. We have documentation going back years, bank records, property filings, your own hard drive full of evidence that you apparently forgot to destroy. I paused. The hard drive labeled, "Do not delete." You might want to work on your OPSEC. Something shifted in her expression. The mask fell away completely, and for just a moment, I saw the person underneath. Not remorse. I don't think she was capable of that. But recognition. The understanding that she'd finally been caught. What happens now? She asked. Now we give you a choice, Tyler said. You can cooperate with our lawyers, agree to our terms, make this as clean as possible. Or you can fight, and we will destroy you publicly in ways you can't even imagine. What terms? Full dissolution of your fraudulent marriage to Tyler. Uncontested divorce from Chase. Forfeiture of any claims to Tyler's inheritance or the Portland property. Cooperation with the insurance company's investigation. And if I do all that? We recommend the prosecutor go easy on sentencing. You might get probation instead of prison time. Natalie laughed. A harsh, broken sound. You've been planning this. For weeks, I said. Turns out I'm pretty good at long-term strategy when I'm properly motivated. I underestimated you. You underestimated both of us. That's what happens when you think everyone else is a pawn in your game. She stood there for a long moment, processing her options. I could see the calculations happening behind her eyes. What could she salvage? What leverage might she still have? Whether there was any way out of the trap we'd built. Finally, her shoulders dropped. I want a lawyer before I say anything else. That's probably wise, Tyler said. We'll be in touch. We left her standing in her own condo, her fraud condo, purchased with money from a marriage that never legally existed. I looked back once from the doorway. She was staring at nothing, motionless as a statue. For just a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the wedding video, the insurance policy, the years of lies, and the feeling passed. The arrest happened 3 weeks later. Natalie was at her office, the real one, in Seattle, when 2 detectives arrived. They escorted her out in handcuffs, past colleagues who stood frozen at their desks, watching their respected regional manager get perp-walked to a waiting patrol car. She was charged with bigamy in the first degree and making false statements on insurance documents. Bail was set at $50,000. She posted it using the savings from her secret accounts, which put a significant dent in her resources. Her mugshot made the local news. Just a brief mention. Local woman charged with bigamy. But in the age of social media, that was enough. Someone recognized her. Someone shared the story. Within days, everyone who'd ever known Natalie knew what she'd done. Her company placed her on administrative leave the same day. Within a week, she was terminated. Her LinkedIn profile, once a polished showcase of professional achievements, became a graveyard. Someone had shared the news article in the comments, and it spread like wildfire. I didn't orchestrate that part, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy watching it happen. The weeks after the arrest were a strange kind of limbo. Natalie was out on bail, forbidden from contacting either Tyler or me, confined to the Seattle area with an ankle monitor. I'd catch glimpses of her sometimes in the news coverage, leaving her attorney's office, head down, sunglasses hiding her face. She looked smaller than I remembered. Our friends chose sides quickly. Most chose mine. The evidence was too damning for fence-sitting. A few mutual acquaintances reached out with cautious sympathy, the kind that suggested they thought maybe I'd known. Maybe I was somehow complicit. I cut those people out without hesitation. My brother David flew in from Denver the weekend after the arrest. He showed up at my new apartment with a bottle of bourbon and a grim expression. "I always thought there was something off about her," he said, pouring us each a generous glass. "No, you didn't." "Okay, no, I didn't. But I should have. Remember when she skipped Mom's 70th birthday party? She said she had a conference. In August. What kind of pharmaceutical conference happens in August?" We sat with that for a while. "How are you actually doing?" David asked. "And don't give me that 'I'm fine' garbage." I thought about it. Really thought about it. "I'm angry," I said. "But not like I expected. It's not hot, you know? It's cold. Calculated. I spent 9 years with someone who was using me as a safety net, and I never saw it. That's not your fault. She was a professional liar." "Maybe. But I keep thinking about the signs I must have missed. The weekends she was too tired to do anything. The way she'd leave the room to take certain phone calls. The questions she deflected. You trusted your wife. That's not a character flaw. It is when your wife is a criminal." David refilled our glasses. "What happens now?" "Trial. Probably a plea deal. Her lawyer's not stupid. Then divorce proceedings. Victoria thinks I'll get most of the assets given the circumstances. And after that?" I stared into my bourbon. "I have no idea. Start over, I guess. Whatever that means." Harper folded faster than I expected. I called her on a Sunday afternoon, using the speakerphone in Victoria's office. When she answered, I didn't bother with pleasantries. "I know everything, Harper. The wedding, the payments, all of it." Silence on the other end. "Your sister is facing felony charges. The prosecutor wants to know who else was involved. Right now you're looking at conspiracy charges." "I didn't do anything. I just went to the wedding." "You accepted $2,000 a month for 2 years. That's not just going to a wedding. That's being paid to help cover up a crime." "She's my sister. What was I supposed to do?" "You were supposed to have some integrity, but that ship has sailed. Now the question is whether you want to go down with her." "What do you want from me?" "Cooperate with the investigation. Full statement. Everything you knew, everything she told you, every payment you received. In exchange, the prosecutor will consider reduced charges. She'll never forgive me. She's going to prison either way. The only question is whether you join her. Harper took 3 days to decide. When she came in to give her statement, she looked like she hadn't slept the whole time. She told them everything. How Natalie had planned it for years. How she'd scouted Tyler as a potential mark. How she'd recruited Harper with promises of easy money. She said it was victimless, Harper told the prosecutors. She said both guys were happy, nobody was getting hurt. She said I was just helping her live her best life. The statement was enough to add conspiracy charges to Natalie's case. It also meant Harper's life fell apart. Her employer fired her when the investigation went public, and she ended up moving back in with distant relatives in another state. I didn't feel sorry for her. She'd made her choice. $2,000 a month to look the other way, while her sister committed fraud and potentially planned something much worse. That kind of complicity doesn't get a pass just because you're family. Frank, the PI, told me later that Harper had tried to negotiate. She wanted immunity, wanted protection, wanted assurances that her name would be kept out of the press. The prosecutor laughed her out of the room. She had no leverage, and everyone knew it. People always overestimate their importance, Frank said. She thought she was a key witness. Really, she was just corroborating evidence we already had. Without her testimony, we had documents. With it, we had documents plus context. Not nothing, but not worth immunity either. Harper ended up pleading to a misdemeanor, accessory after the fact, and got probation. Light sentence, but heavy consequences. Her reputation was destroyed. Her relationship with her sister was over. The monthly payments stopped, obviously, which meant her lifestyle collapsed overnight. Last I heard, she was working retail in some small town in Oregon, living in an apartment she shared with 2 roommates. A far cry from the designer label life she'd been living on her sister's hush money. Owen Hartwell's destruction was quieter, but no less complete. Insurance fraud investigators pulled his records. They found a pattern of preferential treatment for Natalie's applications, rules bent and expedited without documentation. When confronted, he tried to claim ignorance. She was just an old friend. He was doing a favor. But the text messages told a different story. Flirtatious exchanges. References to when we finally see each other again. Nothing explicitly romantic, but enough to suggest he'd been hoping for something in return. His license was suspended pending investigation. His wife, his actual wife, the one he'd been married to for 15 years, filed for divorce when she learned about the rekindled friendship. His career collapsed in weeks. One more casualty of Natalie's ambitions. The trial was 4 months after the arrest. Natalie's lawyer pushed for a plea deal. The evidence was overwhelming. In the end, she pleaded guilty to bigamy and insurance fraud. The sentencing hearing was brief. The judge listened to impact statements from both Tyler and me, her face growing more disgusted with each detail. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said, "you have demonstrated a pattern of calculated deception that is remarkable in its scope. You exploited 2 men who trusted you, defrauded an insurance company, and showed no remorse for any of it." Natalie stood at the defendant's table, thin and worn, wearing a suit that hung loosely on her frame. 18 months in custody, 3 years probation, $15,000 in fines and full restitution. The bailiff led her away. She didn't look at me as she passed. I sat in the courtroom for a long time after everyone else had left. Tyler found me there, staring at the empty defendant's table. "You okay?" "I don't know. I thought I'd feel something. Satisfaction, maybe. Closure. And? Mostly, I just feel tired." Tyler sat down beside me. "For what it's worth, I think we did the right thing. She would have done this to someone else. Maybe someone who wouldn't have caught her. Maybe. Definitely. People like her don't change. They just find new targets." I thought about the motorcycle she'd bought Tyler, the fun hobby she'd encouraged, the $2 million insurance policy waiting in the wings. You're probably right. I know I'm right. And now she's going to prison. Harper's life is ruined. Owen lost everything, and everyone who ever trusted her knows exactly what she is. He paused. That's not nothing, Chase. That's justice. It's something, I agreed. I'm just not sure it's enough. It never is, but it's what we've got. The divorce was finalized a month later. The court awarded me the majority of our marital assets. I sold the house, moved to a downtown apartment, started over. Tyler and I stayed in touch. It was strange at first, but over time it became something like friendship. We met for drinks occasionally, two men bonded by the singular experience of being married to the same woman. You know what the worst part is? Tyler said one night, a few months after the sentencing. We were at a bar downtown, working through our second round. What? I still think about her sometimes. Not missing her exactly, but wondering if any of it was real. I do too. Did she ever love either of us, or were we just assets to be managed? I've stopped trying to answer that question, I said. It doesn't change anything. Whether she loved me or not, she still lied. She still defrauded you. She still planned to potentially… I couldn't finish the sentence. The motorcycle, Tyler said quietly. Yeah, the motorcycle. We drank in silence for a while. I'm selling the condo, Tyler said eventually. Too many memories. I'm thinking about relocating. Maybe San Francisco, maybe somewhere else entirely. Fresh start. That makes sense. What about you? You seeing anyone? Started dating. Nothing serious. It's hard to trust after something like this. Tell me about it. I went on a date last month. Nice woman, smart, attractive, and the whole time I kept watching for signs. Does she guard her phone? Does her schedule make sense? Is she too interested in my finances? That's exhausting. It is, but I can't turn it off. Every time someone seems too perfect, I think about how perfect Natalie seemed, and then I run. The alternative is letting her win, I said. Letting what she did define the rest of our lives. So we keep trying. A year after the trial, I proposed to a woman named Elena. She was an architect. The irony wasn't lost on me, with dark hair and a laugh that made everything feel possible. We'd met at a fundraiser for a local charity, one of those networking events I normally avoided. But a friend had insisted, and I was trying to say yes to more things, trying to rebuild a social life that had collapsed along with my marriage. Elena was standing by the bar, looking at her phone with an expression of polite boredom. She caught me looking and raised an eyebrow. Let me guess, she said. You hate these things too. Is it that obvious? You've been nursing the same drink for 20 minutes and you keep checking your watch. Fair. I'm Chase, by the way. Elena, are you here because you actually support the cause or because someone guilted you into it? Column A, column B. You. My firm's a sponsor. I'm here for the visibility, which sounds terrible when I say it out loud. I laughed. At least you're honest. That's me, aggressively transparent. She tilted her head. You want to get out of here and find somewhere with better drinks and worse lighting? That first night, we talked until the bar closed. She was sharp, funny, unimpressed by pretense. When she asked about my past, I gave her the highlights. Divorced, complicated, not great at relationships. She didn't push. It was 3 months before I told her the whole story. We were walking along the waterfront after dinner, and she asked why I was so cautious, why I always seemed to be waiting for the other shoe to drop. My ex-wife was a bigamist, I said. She was married to another man the whole time we were together. 2 years ago, she married him in a beach ceremony in the Caribbean while I was home thinking she was at a work conference. Elena stopped walking. You're serious? Unfortunately. How did you find out? Old hard drive. I was looking for photos for an anniversary present and found her wedding video instead. That's... I don't even know what to say. That's insane. It was. It still is, honestly. Some days I wake up and forget just for a second, and then it all comes back. She was quiet for a moment. That explains a lot. The way you double-check everything, the way you tense up when I mention travel. I'm working on it. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying I understand now. We walked in silence for a while. Then she took my hand. I'm not her, she said. I know you can't just believe that. I know you have to see it for yourself. But I want you to know. Whatever happened with her, I'm not going anywhere. That was the moment I knew I wanted to marry her. It just took me another 9 months to work up the courage to ask. The proposal was simple. A quiet dinner at the restaurant where we'd had our first date, a ring I'd picked out with agonizing care, a question I'd rehearsed 100 times. Elena, I said, kneeling beside our table while the other diners pretended not to watch. I know my past is complicated. I know I come with baggage and trust issues and a tendency to expect the worst, but being with you has shown me that I can still believe in something good. She was already crying, which I chose to interpret as a positive sign. Will you marry me? Yes, of course, yes. We were getting married in the spring. Small ceremony, waterfront venue, just friends and family, people who actually knew us, who were actually part of our lives. Tyler was coming as a guest. My brother David would be my best man. Elena's parents, who'd been skeptical at first about the divorced guy with the dramatic backstory, had come around once they saw how happy she was. This time, there would be no secrets, no hidden drives, no other lives lurking in the shadows. Just two people making a promise and meaning it. That seemed like enough.